I was telling them, I was like, this is an opportunity to do a character that I don't think animated wise has ever, like, his origin's been really truly explored. And I think also in a way that's um, the way we like to see heroes, which is like a hero that's through and through and something we can be inspired by in the end. No matter how dark his past is, it's a hopeful kind of way of approaching the character and a hero.
Talk about your John Stewart a little bit. What did Aldous bring to the role that really helped bring it out for this film?
For, I'm not sure how you're asking that question. Can you ask that again?
What did he bring to the role to really enhance the character of John Stewart?
The Aldous Hodge you're talking
Yes.
about? Okay, yeah, it's interesting because he kind of has that attitude about him already, and I don't know if you guys have met him, but he has that kind of attitude of like
Mm,
positive, but he's not like
right.
happy-go-lucky. He's
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
like, and you can read that even from the way he acted, but also like who he is. It's very magnetic from him, like kind of person he is, and you have that same thing I think with Jon Stewart on the screen. It's like, yeah, he's not like wee, but you still have a positive, really strong vibe from him, and I think that comes through on Jon Stewart. So
I love the we.
what's that?
I love the we. Like,
we.
they're like we. I'm like, what would that look like?
We have that, when we do other kind of animations. You're just like, okay, that's, if we do a villain, we often refer to it as being mustache twirly. You're like, okay, this is big. Yeah, it's like, you're like, that's too cartoony. We wanted a much more serious and realistic tone to it, so that it read that these characters have consequences. Because if they don't have consequences, that feeling like hope isn't as real. So,
So your previous DC animated project you directed, Just Society,
mm-hmm,
that was, whenever you're dealing with large ensembles, it's always a beast.
mm-hmm,
Juggling so many different characters and plot
yeah,
lines. And
yeah,
this one, there's still a large ensemble, it's pretty significant ensemble, but
mm-hmm,
you're focused on one character, John
mm-hmm,
Stewart.
yeah.
Just curious what the experience was for greenlighting the film compared to Justice Society.
Right, right. Like, I mean, that was the main thing. Was like, this is about one character versus that. And I mean, when you approach it, like, you still have. I mean, for something like Justice Society, it's about how all the different little plots and the main thrust of the film. So you're thinking like, what's the main message through this film, and how do those subplots kind of reinforce it and help make sense of that. So that's what you're approaching when you do that. When you're approaching something like this, you're really considering the decisions that main character makes and how those other characters around them. You don't want to treat them like throwaway characters, but you, at the same time, when you approach it, you're like, what is John's story through this? What does it mean to him as a person? It's easy because what we had done originally on the story was we actually moved a big chunk, about 10 minutes of the story, from one place to another. When we had actually gotten to almost the final animatic, we literally took it and say, this is not working here. This is going to turn it into a Hal Jordan movie, right? And we're like, no, we have to change it. And that's a big change to make at the last minute, because you have all these other things that have to change in order to bring it back. And if there's anything connecting pieces that we have to put, we have to go back in and make those. And we're just like, no, this has to be about John. So we have to move this story to instead of the story we're starting with, to a place where we're doing a flashback on it, to make sure that it's so that John understands what's going on, not what happened to Hal. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Speaking of, go ahead, Josh.
So you guys are all gonna hit me because you've heard me ask variations of this
The
the last two things, but
Mhm.
I'm very interested in the relationship between John and his ring in this movie
Right.
because usually in the comics it's treated as a tool like Batman's
Mm-hmm.
utility belt or
Mm-hmm.
batarang,
Mm-hmm.
but here like there's a relationship and it evolves throughout the
Mm-hmm.
movie. Can you speak to that?
I think you're right, because the way the previous ones, it's just like it's a tool, it's a used thing. But what we want to do with Green Lantern was like throw him into a world that he had never been through, like, and one of those things was like being exposed to a thing that has to teach you how to do stuff. Because he's not coming in where he's like meeting the Owens and then going from there like, oh, this is how you do it. That's not at all. He's being pulled along this story, and it's forcing him, like, so having a character that kind of brings you through this strange new world that you have to walk through. A good example is like Apocalypse Now, like when the guy's going back, there's this whole sub story of like, oh my god, he's going to a strange new world without knowing exactly what this means. He's tasted it, right, but this is a whole new thing. So it's so important that I think something like The Ring does have a relationship with him in order to emphasize that idea. Um, a lot of the decisions we made as we went through the colors and stuff like that with some of the scenes and some of the like the battle we had, like what color that was, like it was really important that we felt like he was being forced into a new world. It's interesting because like when we got the raw footage back, like something doesn't feel right here. Um, but when we went through and started applying effects to certain things, we're like, oh no, no, this is how integral sci-fi feel is to this entire thing to make it work. It's critical. Otherwise, the story and being thrown into a world you don't know about is gone. So we have to make it feel like it's a little technology that he's not used to and things that he's not used to. So that's the relationship that we wanted to bring out with The Ring was like, oh no, no, he's being yanked through this process through something he doesn't understand. So that's why we made the decision.
Speaking of not making this a Hal Jordan movie,
Mhm.
how refreshing and even exciting was it for you that you're not having to put a Batman or a Superman or
Mhm.
something like into this movie
Mhm.
and making it a little bit more unique in that regard?
Mm-hmm. That was the most exciting part about it, was like being able to tell the story of someone that hadn't been really told about the history and giving him real weight. Batman's a good example. Like we know exactly what motivates him. We know exactly what has brought him to where he is and why he's there. No one's really done that with Green Lantern in the animated universe. They've done it in the comics, but they haven't done it in like an animated place, especially since Justice League. So we're like, this was a huge opportunity just to walk in and be able to do that. It was super exciting. We're like, oh my god, we give him real reasons to do what he does and why he does it. And it kind of, I told them, I was like, it kind of tied in to how he was in Justice League. You know, Bruce Timm's Justice League. We're like, that makes perfect sense. He was always serious, always steadily
Mhm.
serious. And we're like, now you know why. So it was really exciting and really fun to tell that why.
How did you put your own impact on the character? You said he'd been done in obviously the Justice League Unlimited, and
Mm-hmm.
you saw him a little bit in Cybertron in
Mm-hmm.
episode. So now this is your film.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you put your own impact on him?
My personal impact,
Yeah.
I think it's more like some of that stuff when I'm looking at the script, my job is to start thinking what motivates this character, why are they making the decisions that they're making, and that's one of the most exciting things about it as a director is like, okay, they made the decision, but what pushed him there? What made him that? And what's their tonal interpretation of what they see it, and what's going to be their physical movement and thought process of how they deal with that, and they go to the next thing. Yeah, the script says do this next, but we get to explain why, and that's for me that's the most exciting part and what I get to